So, welcome once again to our website, Groking Wholeness. I'm Carol Roberts. I'm one of the founders, and I have with me today two esteemed gentlemen. Our topic today is religion and spirituality. And I'm going to let the gentlemen introduce themselves in a moment, but I just want to remind our viewers that we depend on your subscriptions, your free subscriptions, and your likes. And so if you do like this topic or you like the discussion, please hit the subscribe button and you'll get lots more of this high class and high intellectual discussion. So let's start with the other founder, or one of the other founders of Groking Wholeness, Douglas.
Yeah, hi, I'm Douglas Bonar. I just retired recently last year after 45 years as a licensed mental health counselor. And my primary work was in the field of forensic, court-related cases. All my cases were court-related. I did my graduate research actually on the uses of altered states of consciousness in psychotherapy. And that's been my intense interest all this time. Even working with forensic clients, I was teaching them about mindfulness practice, about states of consciousness, and all that. Spirituality has been a deep part of my life. I've been an explorer and a seeker for many, many years. Consider myself a bodhisattva in the Buddhist tradition. So I'm really eager to hear of what you have to say, Gary. I'm excited by this.
Gary, you're on.
Well, I'm thrilled as well. And my name is Gary Uremovich. I'm a retired physician assistant, and I spent 26 years in the Air Force. And after I retired, I was the director of religious education for the Protestant part of the chapel at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I have a PhD from Trinity Seminary in doctoral processes, as well as a doctorate in PhD in congregational care, pastoral care from Newburgh University in Indiana.
Well, so we have quite the accomplished gentleman here. And I'm going to start off by throwing out a question to Gary and also to Douglas, but let's let Gary go first. Can you give us a quick uh, definition of religion versus spirituality?
Right. Spirituality is much more encompassing. And so I think every human being is a spiritual being. We're spiritual beings having an earthly experience. And I think that's something that is very important for us to realize. Religion categorizes people into one dogma or another. And so it's very constrictive. And unfortunately, I think we get so mindful of the dogma that we forget to realize that everyone has a spiritual dimension. And I think that's what makes spirituality so important because we need to have a curiosity about the other person. I personally believe that everyone is divine and that everybody has this divine nature within them. And when we meet someone, we're meeting another divine person, a divine entity. And I think that's thrilling. And so I think it was a poet that said, there are no strangers, just people we haven't met yet. And I think that's true about the spiritual dimension of so many people that I think that's a very important thing for us to understand about each other instead of finding out what denomination, what faith tradition, what practices are you doing. Those are important. And we need to know that for ourselves, for our foundation as an individual. But when we look at other people, I think there needs to be a broader perspective.
So, Douglas, would you like to address the same question?
Well, it's very similar. Of course it is. In Buddhism, we see the three gems, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is reckoned, we are the Buddha. We are the Christ. We have access to that intelligence of the universe, seeing each being as sacred.
Yes.
That's our spirituality, and the earth, seeing the earth as divine also. Not just each being, but seeing the divine in all is the pantheist kind of thing, or panentheism, as the Native Americans, seeing the earth as sacred also. I think that's our evolution as a human species, seeing the divine, seeing, recognizing that we are the divine. In Hinduism, we go namaste. That of God within me recognizes, honors the God within you.
Yes.
So, yes.
So I'm going to add my part here. Um, I always wondered what this is all about and how come we're here and how come people believe so fervently in so many different dogmas. How can they believe something that's so very different? And so I started my own experiential uh, nosing around and investigating. And what I came to actually was the fact that religions appear different, but in their core, they're all the same. Because when you turn inward, that's when you find the truth. And inside each of us, as you so well said, is a divine being who then can recognize the divinity in everyone else.
Yes.
So, how can we help people realize that that's the truth and that the outward appearances are just window dressing? Gary, maybe take that one.
Oh, yes. I think we need to have curiosity about the other person. Very often, we're not curious about them because we've already labeled them. We already know what they know, and we don't agree with it. And so we put them in a little box, and it's very convenient to say, I can ignore this box because it doesn't fit with my theology, with my understanding of the world, of spirituality. And I think that's unfortunate. But to be curious, and we should do more listening to others than telling them what we believe. I think we need to ask what other people are thinking, what they're believing, what they're experiencing. And I think one way to do that is to have them have a transcendental experience. And so I think that's a unique way. And there's a Christian organization that is encouraging Christians to have these experiences as well.
Really? Well, we'll have to talk more about that. What organization is that?
I don't have it on the tip of my tongue,
Okay.
but I'll get that to you.
Is
Okay.
that Richard Rohr's organization, The Contemplative, by Richard Rohr,
Right.
ROHR?
I follow Richard Rohr, but that's not his particular niche.
Okay.
But he's more into meditation
Yeah.
and contemplation.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic. And later we'll probably talk about the universal Christ. And
Yes.
he's one of the people that has coined that phrase. And I agree with that.
So when you say transcendental experience and you apparently exclude meditation, what are you talking about?
Well, meditation can be.
Mhm.
But when we talk about a transcendental experience, it's more of, for instance, doing breathing, like Groff
Yeah.
encourages people to actually go into kind of like a psychedelic experience.
Mhm.
And so having psychedelic experiences, if they're mentored in an appropriate way, otherwise
Yes.
it's just having a high and enjoying it and then forgetting all about it. But if it's a directed way of experiencing reality in a different way, it helps you realize that my brain isn't the only reality out there. There's something beyond that.
In fact, people believe now that the brain is the filter that keeps out the transcendent.
Is that something?
And
Yes.
that makes this world look like a materialism manifestation, and nothing more.
Right.
And that's very sad. I was fortunate at the age of 19 to encounter LSD in college. And so I had an experience unguided and, just random, that I found myself outside the planet, looking down at the surface of the earth, seeing tiny ants
Wow.
swarming, which were human beings, and being able to tune into their thoughts and hearing that each one of them thought that what they were doing at that moment was the most important thing in the universe. And I found that to be so incredibly hilarious. I laughed for what seemed hours. And then I realized too that it was also very sad. And so I wept for hours and went back and forth and just put everything into perspective. Now, years later, I come to believe maybe they were right.
Mm.
Douglas, what do you think about the
Yeah, yeah.
transcendent state?
Well, I had that transcendental experience also past military in Vietnam. I was an ex-Marine Vietnam veteran,
Yes.
and I had a very transcendental, it changed my whole life's trajectory. I left Vietnam. I had a top secret crypto clearance, working intelligence, turned in my top secret crypto clearance as a protest against the war. And after that, all my life trajectory changed into studying this consciousness phenomena and the noetic sciences. I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was
Yes.
the sixth man to walk on the moon
Yes.
and had a very profound transcendental experience from outer space, looking down at the moon from outer space, like you're describing, Carol. He saw no boundaries. And
Ah,
he started instituting noetic sciences to really research what is this about? There is a science behind this. It's not just theological. This is scientific that we have this ability to transcend. This is a great time to be alive when we know it through indigenous wisdom. We know it through scientific proof, cosmogenesis, the holo movement, quantum entanglement. We know it through theological um, studies and all that. We are one, we are connected with an intelligence of the universe. So it's really fascinating time to be alive right now.
You
yes.
left out one important fact. How
Tell
did
me.
you establish your transcendent experience in Vietnam? What happened?
Just a realization. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. Also, somewhat drug induced in Vietnam. I came back from Vietnam as an addict, which many of us did, of course,
Which
spent
drug, by
years
the
in
way?
that. We had OJs, opium joints. It was marijuana dipped in opium that we would commonly be smoking over there. So it was very dreamy and all that, but I had this realization, an epiphany, a revelation. I didn't know what it was. And I went to my friend and told him about it. And he said, "That's cosmic consciousness. There's a book on it." And I got back from Vietnam. The first place I went to when I went to Hawaii is a bookstore. And it's on my shelf right over there, Cosmic Consciousness. I bought the book, and that's been my study for all these years, studying consciousness. Yeah.
Amazing. And Gary, you are newly come to the plant medicine world.
Yes.
How did
Um,
you have your realizations before that?
well, 7 years ago, my wife died, and I went into what people call the dark night of the soul. And so I was so depressed, and I drank until the point that I passed out. And so, in effect, I had lost my wife. I'd retired a year early to take care of her. She had ovarian cancer, and so I had no career. I had no purpose. And I found that my faith seemed to crumble beneath my fingers. And at that time, I already had a D-min, but my faith meant nothing at the time, and I was hollowed out. And it was the most
Um,
terrifying time of my life. And so I went through this, and I was still going through it when I met Vivica, my current wife, and she helped me get through it. But after going through that process, my faith was strengthened, but I realized that I'm more than just dogma. I'm more than just doctrine. And so I wanted to explore more of what is out there that's beyond me. And so just recently, last year or so, I've tried different psychedelics, including psilocybin under watchful care of other people. But and MDMA, I've tried that. And so that has been an eye opener for me, that I felt as if I was one with nature. And so I look up into the tree and I'd see a leaf and I would feel I was embodied in that leaf. It was an incredible experience. And then just recently I had a retro life regression, a hypnotherapeutic episode. And that was revealing too, talking to my my superior self. And so discovering that there's wisdom that goes beyond any wisdom I could find in a book. And so this has led me to really consider that life is far more connected than I ever thought. Because at the dark night of the soul, I was so disconnected. I never want to be disconnected again, and I don't think I ever will be. And so now I'm firmly um, integrated into life and into a spirituality that I don't think is going to fail, because it's not about me knowing what I need to know. It's about me just releasing myself and letting go, and then realizing that I am beyond what can happen here, and I will go on. And so uh, that sounds kind of disjointed. I'm sorry if it doesn't make sense, but that's kind of like an epiphany for me. And it was late because I'm 74, so 72, 73 is when I started to explore these areas.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
May I interject a question,
Sure,
please?
please.
Yeah, just a little, just briefly, in a historical perspective. You published in January 23 a book on Constantine
Oh, yeah.
and a call for transformation. And then in September 24, In Defense of Eve,
Yes.
looking at that feminine aspect, a book that you had published.
Yes.
So, historically, how did this come about? How did we get so separate from understanding ourselves as divine?
Well, you see, early Christianity was not dogma based. It was more
Right.
relationship based. That loving each other and being involved in the lives of the community, that was more of Christianity at the very beginning. In fact, they called them the people of the way, and that wasn't their name. They didn't name themselves. Instead, it was people coming together to really encourage them to realize that they are loved by God, and they have purpose in life. What happened with Constantine is that he weaponized the faith. He saw that these people early in the faith movement, they'd sacrifice their lives. If you told them to bow down to the emperor, they refused, and they didn't care if they died because they knew there was something beyond this life. And so he wanted that same sort of devotion from his soldiers. So he had this epiphany of seeing a cross in the sky, and he said, "Well, that's the sun God, this God of sun." And so he took on the emblem of Christianity, and Christians came to serve for him. Uh, but and then he had dogma created so that everybody was on the same page, and anybody that disagreed with him would be banished or at worst killed. And the books that were published, such as the Gnostic Gospels, they were burned and removed. They weren't allowed to have them. but some were buried in the desert and they were found.
Yeah.
But so our faith has been weaponized, and it still is weaponized.
Yes.
That the Crusades, Catholic against Protestant, um, we now look at how we're different. And if you have a different dogma, that means that you're not a real Christian. Whereas at the beginning, there are many different avenues of faith. Some were important. For instance, the fact that God came in physical form. And now we sense we. In fact, Jesus said this. Didn't your own prophets say that God made us into gods? And that's in the Old Testament. And they had forgotten that because it didn't make sense to them. So we have the divine spark within us, and so and in defense of Eve, Vivica was my wife. She's a very strong advocate for Eve. Eve has been demonized as being the
Yes.
cause of sin entering the world, death and destruction, and that gives patriarchal societies room to say, women, they're kind of bad. They cause bad things to happen. And we all know that is so, that's lunacy. We need half the population to be involved. And the divine feminine that I really see all around me is something we need to embrace.
And he wrote
Um,
that book, The Messiah's Advisor, about Mary Magdalene, also in 2024. I
yes,
imagine that brings in the same feminine energy.
right. I got in trouble for that because a good Christian friend of mine says Jesus didn't need any advisor. Well, he needed to know he needed to know the woman's perspective. He was a man in a man's body, and so he needed to know the female perspective. And she had that role. I'm convinced of that. Now, of course, all these are novels, and so it's made up. But I think there is some validity to both of
Amen.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Am I correct, though? This is true of all Abrahamic religions as opposed to the religions of the East? Buddhism, Hinduism, Shintoism, Jainism, and all that saw the interconnectedness more.
I think so. Yes. Yeah. And
Well, if I may
yeah.
speak for the Jewish
Judaism.
religion,
Hmm.
what happened there was a division of labor, but a deep respect for what the other does.
Uh,
So the men were tasked with learning and studying and teaching, and the women were the practical managers of the household. And one could not exist without the other. In fact, well, the women could probably exist quite well without scholars, but it was a partnership and continues to be. And there is much respect for women in Judaism. So I think it came along later. And then, of course, the weaponization of dogma and the separation. So separation in all its aspects is the problem. And if we're
Yes.
convinced that we're nothing
Yes.
more than a temporary enlivened bag of skin, we're going to wind up being frightened and lonely and isolated and anxious and all the things that our children are suffering from now. But the deep truth is we're all connected. We are all part of the divine. And what a marvelous thing to realize, even at our grand old age.
yeah.
So, Douglas, you want to say something about Buddhism in this regard?
It sees more, in my mind, of the interconnectedness. Again, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The Buddha, if you know that you are one with the divine, that you are sacred, the Dharma, what is your purpose of being here? What are you called to do? How can you be a part of the solution to the poly crisis going on right now? What is your role in that? And that's what I'm looking for. I write a lot about Dharma.
Uh,
And then the song, how's your spiritual community? Who are you with? How do you join? We cannot do this alone. We know this in Buddhism, essentially. So I'm just highly influenced by that, essentially. Yeah, I'll say that about it.
Does anyone want to take on the question of Islam and its role in this never-ending conflict in the world?
well, I think, first of all, I think it's not unique to Islam that we went through the same thing with the Crusades, where we became convinced that we needed to eradicate anyone that didn't believe like we did and to recapture the Holy Land. And so I think that's part of our tradition as well. So I think whenever there's fundamentalists in
Exactly.
whatever faith tradition, what that does is that breeds contempt for the other and it
Yes.
breeds hatred towards the other. And so I think if we look back at Rumi, the great Sufi poet, he was beautiful. If we look at the origins of Islam, they helped bring mathematics into the world, and their culture was rich. But now we look at it as being very repressive. It's repressive of anything that goes beyond what they think is part of their dogma. So dogma, I think, is part of the problems, and that creates hatred for anyone that doesn't fit that particular teaching.
And that allows violence and all manner of
In fact, it
atrocities.
doesn't just allow violence, it
Oh,
mandates it. They
wow.
have to, because this is going against Allah. And they call this um, uh, a, what is it?
Infidel,
Well, they're
infidel,
infidels, but
apostate.
but it's something that's apart from God. And if it's apart from God, it needs to be eliminated. So if someone's apart from God, if they don't turn to their God, they need to be eliminated. And that's part of this fundamental sort of perspective. So they don't see this as morally reprehensible, chopping people's heads off. They're doing Allah's duty because Allah hates them. And
Why did Allah create them in the first place then? Are they not creations of the same God? I know I'm arguing something you don't believe,
no, you're
but I
absolutely right.
just want to put it out there. If violence is required, what damage does that do to your eternal soul? Or maybe
Well,
not, but
and I need to say that not all people that are of the Islam faith feel that way. I
Good.
know many loving people that are Muslim, and they're appalled by what happens in
Yeah.
the name of Allah. And and so just as I'm appalled what has happened in the name of Christianity, that we had Catholic priests going into foreign countries and mandating people convert. Um, and then we've had other sexual sorts of problems and all that covered up. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go everywhere.
The doctrine of discovery also mandated that. The Pope had, I forget the name of the Pope, but he mandated that people go in and gave permission for them to slaughter American, the people in the Americas when they came in. If they did not convert and accept Jesus as their Savior, it was mandated that they could be slaughtered. The
Right.
doctrine of discovery is just
Yes.
harsh. And Christian nationalism now is doing a similar thing. Politically, we see the influence of Christian nationalism in our government today. I mean, it's sad what's going on right now. Gary, let me ask you a question. Are you optimistic about the future right now from what you see happening in transformation? You see people awakening. I do.
I do.
Are you optimistic about our future?
I think so. And in my um, past life regression, I was able to talk to my higher self. And the goal is for us as individuals to get to a higher level, a higher
Yes.
vibrational level. And that calms the world. And so, just as Christians are called to be the salt of the earth, I think people that are loving and open and gentle, we are called to be the salt of the earth as well. And it's not based on a dogma.
Right.
It's based on the fact that we will have a calming effect. And so we need more people that are nonviolent, that are loving, that are curious, that are willing to talk with others without shouting at them. We need more people that don't call others names, that understand that they're all divine beings, and maybe they're misguided, but there's no reason for us to hate and
Mm.
for us to destroy. Instead, we need to love and embrace. And I think that increases the vibration
Yes.
of creation.
Yes.
And it's not just me having to say, woe is me. I think it's better for us to say, wow is we. And so,
Wow, it's me. That's good. And of course, Jesus said from the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
absolutely.
I think we're coming to a time in history where we are about to make an evolutionary leap. And we are being carried by a force that I liken to a tsunami. So we either learn to surf it or it will drown us. Some will drown and some will rise to the occasion. And I believe it's our generation, forgive me, the baby boomers who have come here to elevate the consciousness. And this is what we're trying to do with this website.
Yes, that's wonderful.
I
So,
would only disagree. I think we are already in the quantum leap. We're not going to have a quantum. This is now. It's been prophesized by indigenous cultures for thousands of years. The Hopi, the Mayan, the Aboriginals. This is the period of time. We're in it now. We're witnessing it
Yes.
right now.
indeed we are.
Wow.
Indeed we are. And that's why it seems so scary. And every day brings a brand new, shocking truth or shocking um, thing that the government is doing. But we have to hold our space, hold our center. You mentioned Rumi. I've thought of a quote. Out beyond the idea of right and wrong is a field. I will meet you there.
Wonderful. Yeah,
So
that's a beautiful poem.
it is. It's astonishing how much wisdom has come through. And he was, what, 12th century? I mean, he was long
Oh, yeah,
time
a long time ago.
ago. So the truth never changes. But I think with the advent of mass communication,
Mm.
and the fact that we, the three of us in this small conversation, have the potential of reaching thousands or millions of people with with what we consider to be the wisdom distilled over a lifetime.
Yes, yes,
It brings an immediacy and a power to our words and our thoughts. So
definitely.
you're right, Douglas. It's happening. It is
It's
totally.
happening. It's happening now.
Uh-huh.
You also wrote, Gary, about walking, the benefits of walking and our physical health and all that in that book on walking. Could you just address that real quickly?
Well, as a physician assistant, I was in charge of healthcare for overweight military. Uh,
Yes.
and so I had to teach courses on how to diet and how to lose weight. And also I had a walking clinic. And so I published this book because I love walking. Vivica and I walk every day, 4 or 5 miles, and we thoroughly enjoy it. But there's different techniques to walk. And one of the techniques I didn't put in that I just discovered is Tai Chi walking. So walking as if you're walking on a frozen lake and looking for the enemy and very carefully. So you do The front foot is an empty foot, no weight on it. And then once you put weight on it, then you go to the other foot. And that doesn't sound like that's a workout, but believe me, if you do that for about 10 minutes, it's a workout because you're balancing on each leg. Anyway, so a lot of the books that I've written are because I have an interest in those areas. I'm also interested in learning and public speaking, and so those are areas that I'm curious about, and I want to discover more about it. So I write a book about it. Now, one book I wrote that probably will make people think twice about reading some of my Bible studies is called Old, Intimate, and Unafraid. And that's talking about the physical relationship between myself and my newlywed wife. And I wasn't explicit or anything like that, but just talking about the importance of physical contact with another human being, how important that is. And so I'm living a life that's unafraid, and I'm glad about that. That and so I think life is good, and no matter what the future holds, life is always good.
Well, I think we're very fortunate to have been born where and when we
Abs-
have,
Oh yeah,
because some lives were not so good. We're difficult, we're painful, we're full of loss and devastation, and continues to this day. But what you're saying is there's always the seed of growth, of understanding, of coming into our divinity through our experiences.
exactly.
So I want to mention we did an interview with you and Vivica, which is archived on our YouTube channel on that very book, Old, Unafraid, and Intimate, something.
Intimate is in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Old, intimate, and unafraid.
All right, there you go.
Because
Yes.
because we live lives that are afraid. We're afraid of so many things, and we're disconnected from everyone, and we feel as if we're too old to do anything. Let me tell you, being old for me right now, there's freedom. Nobody tells me what to do. Well,
Exactly.
except Vivica, but I don't have a boss, and so I love this time in life.
And you write of grief also. Good Grief
Yes,
is a book that you've recently written on. So you're somewhat of a death doula. Am
yes,
I correct?
yes.
Would
Yeah.
you address that, please?
Oh, sure. And so, because of my grief experience with my late wife, I've got a master's in counseling from Vanderbilt. And so that didn't mean anything when I'm going through that process. But now, Vivica, when we met, I told her that I really need a group for my grief. And so we went to a group, and it was called Grief Share, which is very good, but it was a bit too rigid. And so we wrote this book together about good grief. Good grief means that your grief matters, that what happened matters. And it's not something that has to be fixed. It needs to be something that needs to be understood and spoken about. And other people need to understand your grief. And so, so people that are dying, very often when they're going through the dying process, um, they can release life. We have the tendency to think that we need to hold on to life for as long as we can. There comes a time for each of us that it'll be time for us to say, I'm going to the next phase of my existence. And that's okay. Imagine a baby being born. Now, the baby's been in the womb for 9 months, and everything has been provided for it. Has nutrition, it has warmth, it has blood supply, and then birthday comes. For the baby, that's catastrophic because everything they've known is going to go away as they go down that birth canal. We have that same transition, I believe, through dying. We don't know what's on the other side, and it's terrifying for us to think what is going to happen to. And I think we need to be able to say, when I'm ready, I'm ready. And and I think God gives us grace at the time when it's time.
Isn't that one of the main purposes of religion, is to
Comfort.
be able to shepherd us through those transitions that we don't understand?
I think so.
But
To
as you
take away some
say,
of the fear.
yes, it's been weaponized and used to control people.
But if you believe you're going to everlasting hell, I mean, there's such fear behind that. I mean, that doesn't take away fear.
That's a good point.
That's
Yeah. Well, and that's how we convert people. We convert them by terrifying them of hell.
correct. That's
Uh,
correct.
but the Bible, the New Testament, the Christian Bible says it is by God's grace that we are brought near to Him. So it's His grace that draws us to Him, not fear about hell. Hell scares us. But let me tell you, there's a lot of people that say they're Christians because they made a confession of faith. So they have an insurance paper saying, I've been baptized as a Christian, therefore I've got it made. Well, that's a sad way to have faith against going to hell. Instead, I think faith is for us to enjoy life now and live a life that's unafraid.
So I think spirituality is the path that
Yep,
brings us there. Whatever
absolutely.
religion we might belong to or not, we always have access to the truth.
Yes.
The truth is the truth no matter what.
Yeah.
And everyone has a piece of it. So I kind of think of this life as slipping into an avatar or putting on a glove, and you wander around doing your thing for however many years you're given, and then you're sucked back into the great unknown, but that's really home. That's where we came from. And
Yes.
that's where we're going back to.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's the small the view, the individual, the separateness that's scary and terrifying.
And that our government and corporations want to keep on instilling on us to gain control and keep us separate from each other so we don't have this realization of our interconnectedness because it's a threat to their bottom line, essentially. So it's going to take a lot to break out of this, actually. We're up against, not against, I don't like to use that because that's still a separation, isn't it?
Mhm.
But bringing in this new mode of thinking, it's definitely contracultural. It's different than the normal way of thinking. So
I
let me
think
ask you a quick,
many,
go
I
on,
just want to
please.
say one thing. Indigenous cultures
Okay.
that live with nature, that live in community, that share experiences, that share even psychedelic medicines, have a very different view. And it's the Western culture that's the anomaly.
Yes.
And as we're going from Newtonian physics to quantum physics, from Darwinian evolution to what we're knowing now about evolution, it's cooperation. It is not random genetic mutations, survival of the fittest. It's cooperation, it's collaboration that makes us evolve into our next iteration as a species. Cooperation.
Which is a
I had
feminine
mentioned
trait.
it, yes, it's a feminine trait. Yes, in defense of Eve, again. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question, Gary. I noticed the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha is our spiritual community. Do you attend any spiritual community, a church or a
Oh, sure.
congregation or anything like that?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? What feeds your soul?
Oh, sure. And Viveka and I have visited many different faith traditions. And so we enjoy going to see how people worship and to enjoy the people themselves. And so currently, we go to a United Methodist church. And I like that because it has a quadrilateral that there's reason, there's tradition, there's the Bible, as well as there's community, and all four affect your faith. And so they do have certain dogma, but it's a very broad umbrella. And so a lot of people are there that believe certain things, but not others, but is so loving. And they're so involved in the community. We were very excited about that. But also, Vivek and I go to the synagogue every Friday. And
Oh,
so we enjoy
That's
going
how we
there.
met.
And yeah, that's how we met. And so
thank you.
I enjoy singing the hymns. In fact, Vivek and I this morning were humming one of the hymns that we learned at the synagogue because it's a very catchy tune and it's beautiful. And so
Which one
that
is
feeds
that?
my soul. So
Ritze,
what is it? I can't remember the name of it.
Ritze, I'll bet.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are a number of them, and they're the very tunes that Jesus probably sang as well.
exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we go there to get a sense of what his tradition might have been. But we enjoy the people, and we've been to Seder meals and things of that sort. So we really enjoy them. And thank you for letting Gentiles attend. So I appreciate that.
How better to explain ourselves than to include you
Well,
in
thank you.
our ritual.
Yeah.
Mhm. And we're
Um,
very honored.
well, and we have meditation every Wednesday night in our home. And it's a guided meditation that I do. And so that's for people in the grief support group. We have a grief support group on Sunday evening, and then Saturday night we just started going to the Latin Grill, which is
You didn't
Hispanic
tell me.
food, right? And we go there at 8 o'clock, and anybody can join us just to listen to music and dance. This
Oh,
physical encouragement, hearing good music, having tempo, having some rhythm, and then dancing. You should have seen Vivica. She's 81 years old. She was out there dancing like there's no tomorrow. And I enjoy Latin music. I was raised in Chicago in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, and I heard that music everywhere.
ah.
I used to go every weekend dancing in some Latin club or other, and I haven't been really since COVID.
You need to
But
come with us. We're going to do this
absolutely,
every Saturday
absolutely,
at
it's a
8.
date.
And
It's a
Doug, you can come too.
I can. I'm in Largo, which
Oh,
is
I know.
Pinellas County. Yes, I can. I can do that.
It's a long way. I know.
No, it's not. We're neighbors. We're
Very good.
neighbors.
Oh, I look forward to seeing
So this is, brings us full circle. The difference between religion and spirituality, I think, is spirituality leads us to community,
you.
to
Yes.
cooperation, to respect, to creativity. Religion tends to divide us, make us smaller, make us frightened, make us subject. Of course, it doesn't have to be, but being weaponized the way it is, it tends to do that.
Well, and it's kind of curious that the word religion, the root means to reconnect.
Ah,
So ligio, like ligation. So religion was supposed to reconnect us to God as well as to one another. And it can do that if we don't carry the dogma to be exclusive. That teachings are good, but if it says my teaching is the only way you can think, then there's a problem with that.
There's beauty in religions. There's value systems. There's love. There's beauty in religion. We don't want to throw babies out with bathwater.
Right.
Absolutely. There's beauty there.
Yeah.
but there can also be tremendous harm.
Tremendous. Yeah.
So it's up to each individual, I think,
Yeah.
to decide what their path needs to be. I think people are not aware that life is an evolutionary experience and that it's not just about, assimilating your culture and your family norms, but really to learn about the human family and the family of life and the whole ecosystem that is part of our family as well.
Yes.
So,
I'm going to ask a final question about that ecosystem. You wrote about trees also, and the mycelial network in trees. How does that relate to, there's a theme, biomimicry, that we just
Yes.
need to listen to nature and all that. Does that relate to this, the spirituality too, what we can
It
learn from
does.
the ecosystem?
Well, and that's science fiction. And so, but in a way, it's based on reality. There is a mycelium, and trees are connected. I think all of nature is connected, but they're connected. If there's a sick tree, the other trees come together and bring nutrients to it. And they just discovered that even stumps, somehow the other trees don't realize the tree has been cut off, and they're still bringing nutrients to it. Because maybe it's a phantom tree syndrome. I don't know. Um, but I think that was part of my journey, realizing that there is a connection. And the science fiction was there's a cosmic cloud that envelops the Earth and it activates the mycelium in a supernatural way. And this one scientist has an apparatus that can hear, listen to the tree, and it's Sophia. Sophia is a tree, and Sophia means wisdom. And
Yeah,
Sophia says, "Are you there? Do you hear me?"
Mhm.
beautiful,
So
beautiful.
just for those who may not know, mycelia are the mushroom tendrils that connect underground
Yes.
every plant to every other plant, and that when the actual mushroom is called the fruiting body of the mycelia, and that fruiting body can bring us tremendous wisdom
Yes.
in the form of the psilocybin mushrooms, among
Absolutely.
others, or it can bring death.
Yeah.
So you got to know, you have to have discrimination when it comes to your choice of um, of ways to get there.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm. So I mean, we could go on, and I
Oh,
think
yes.
we've covered a lot of territory here, and perhaps we'll do this again one day. But I'd like to thank both of you for participating and for bringing this very rich tapestry to our viewers, many of whom are in other countries. And we're hoping to expand our reach. So,
Wow.
again,
Mm.
if you've enjoyed this discussion, like it and subscribe. And in YouTube, you can leave us comments as well. So I'm looking forward to that. So,
Well,
gentlemen,
thank you.
anything left that you want to say?
Just profound thank you. Thank you, Gary, for sharing your wisdom, not just with us, certainly, but with the world in your books and all that. I so admire what you're doing. Beautiful Dharma that you are putting
Oh,
out there, this all this good stuff. Thank you. Thank
well,
you.
thank you. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Well, Dan.